I'm John Kaiser at the Metals Investor Forum in Toronto, February 27, 2026. I'm speaking with John Keating, CEO of PJX Resources. John, welcome back to Toronto.
Thank you, John.
We were here 2 years ago and we were super excited.
Yes.
You had found these very high-grade Sullivan look-alike boulders at the bottom of a hill at your Dudney Trail project. It looked like it was going to be just put the drill on the hill and deliver a world-class discovery, and our stock would go to the moon, which, when I do the numbers, we're talking, $5-10 price for something that's half as good or a third as good as Sullivan 1. But we've had 2 years of drill programs, and there is still no discovery hole, but you've had 2 years of sorting out what the Estella Basin target is all about. Why do you think this year will be the one where you nail it?
Well, thanks, John. And yes, it's amazing when you go in to start a drilling program, how you expect it'll be simple. Just put a hole in and it'll do it. The first drill hole program we did, we identified 3 horizons that could potentially be the host of the high-grade boulders we found. The second year, which is last year, we had to go in and test those. And when we hit one of the horizons, we call it the C horizon, we hit 63 meters, intersected 63 meters of a quake zone that was full of anomalous, pervasive zinc, lead, silver, gold, copper, cobalt, gallium, all those metals or elements that you find at the Sullivan. 30 meters true width is amazing. This is a plumbing system that's gone in and pushed itself into the rocks. So a big plumbing system like that supports that where we have those higher grade boulders at the bottom of the hill are likely coming from that area. What we have a challenge with now are some dikes that we've been hitting, which are, I'll call it gapping out, which are separating where when we hit a dike, we don't get to see the stratigraphy around it. And actually the deposit could be right next to us. We have hit banded, beautiful looking lead, zinc, silver, just not the grade of the boulder. So we know that the bands are there. We know that the beds are likely there. And then we went further south into the cirque, the upper end of the cirque, and we found this material, which is high grade lead with silver and zinc. So it's like 30% lead, 44% zinc, and it has 540 grams silver.
A lot of heft to it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's up in the cirque, and that's 800 meters away. So the Sullivan was like a kilometer by a kilometer and a half.
And again, float, not
float.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is drill up in the cirque. We've already built a trail up to the back end of the cirque. It's all ready to go once the snow goes. And we'll drill there. And we're planning how we drill where we have those dikes to get away from them to hit their right horizons. That's what we want to do this year.
Mm-hmm. Now, the last couple of years, first in 2024, you didn't get drilling until late July or early August. And last year, despite having, got the permit and all that, you also had a very late start. And in both years, you kind of, we heard nothing until like the end of the season. Yeah. And then we discovered, no discovery hole. When do you think you'll be able to start this year? And will you be giving us a regular flow of good or bad news as you're moving from one? Because this is a vectoring type story.
It is.
You now have enough information that you can start to think. Like every dud hole also shows you where to go next. And This is kind of a game that we as shareholders want to sit in on as you track down this beast.
Well, yes, and we do want to do that. Our plan last year, we got going in earlier July, but we really wanted to drill from a helicopter pad up higher. The fires in northern BC and Alberta had basically taken all the larger helicopters away. So we couldn't move the drill up there. So we drilled from the road down below, which gave us valuable information. But so we knew the A horizon was where we wanted to be, but it was that C horizon. That's where we hit this. So to answer your question, yes, we'd like to get in there earlier. We're hoping that the snow leaves and we're able to get into the road, maybe even in June, okay? And do that drilling and then go to the helicopter drilling after that. Because for all we know, it could be buried under the cirque. Windy Craggy was under the cirque. I don't know what it is with cirques, but they tend to do that. We don't have any glacier there. It's gone. It's been long gone for thousands of years. But it's the best place to go, we think, right now to go test that stratigraphy there and then move on. As far as putting out news, when we're drilling, we don't put out the news, because if we have a dud hole and we say we have a dud hole, people go, oh, there's nothing there. And then we have a good hole. Then they get mad that we told them about the dud hole. This happened when we made the nickel discovery in Timmins. If we had given all the information about the holes we were drilling that were duds, people would have been selling out. And it was only the last hole that we actually made the discovery. So it's better to wait and see what we get as a whole program, then announce what we've got.
Okay. When I look at your geochem map or soil sampling map, the Lewis Ridge is just loaded with zinc values and other metal values. And in the Estella Basin, there's like next to nothing. And yet your focus has been on the Estella Basin. Why is Lewis Ridge so full of high soil values, and your area so dead?
Well, one of the things is where we are is part of that land we didn't have. Imperial Metals had it. We had to option it. It took us years. We only got the Imperial Metals ground around the Estella 4 years ago, roughly. And so we never did soil surveys through there because there was no need, until we had the ground. You don't do it. So we'd done the soil surveys and historical surveys on Lewis Ridge, and they showed the potential. And yes, we could go drill there. But once we had the Estella, the Imperial ground, the Estella, we found those boulders. Now, they could not have come from Lewis Ridge, although the same horizon goes into Lewis Ridge that we're drilling in and that we found. But the boulders had to come out of where we are or further up into the cirque. So that's why we're focused there, because we have the mineralization in rock, and our drilling shows it's in the ground too. We just have to find the higher grade. But eventually we want to go drill at Lewis Ridge.
Yeah, and now that you have some knowledge about the third dimension in this area and its plumbing system, does that enhance the prospectivity of Lewis Ridge?
Absolutely. When we do, knock on wood, right, forward-looking statement, hit the high-grade boulders, beds, there should be beds and bands of them based on what we see in the boulders, we're going to understand the faulting, we're going to understand the folding to help us out on Lewis Ridge to drill.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that struck me that came out more recently was the Grundy Creek target, which was the sort of ridge on the west side of the Estella Basin target. And a year ago, you had told me, oh, look at this big magnetic anomaly. There's this awful gabbro up top, which doesn't explain it. Pyrrhotite's, of course, the preferred explanation for a big mag anomaly, because that's what's inside these Sullivan type deposits, not where the ore is, but next to it. And this year you had 2 breakthroughs, and forest fire was actually responsible for one of them, something positive rather than something negative. Can you give a background on why this Grundy Creek target is now so sexy?
Well, we didn't start the forest fire. Let's be clear. It was a lightning strike.
Oh, they used to do that in places, start forest fires so that the prospectors could go in there afterwards and prospect for stuff that was covered by vegetation.
Yeah, exactly. And so luckily, or non-luckily, the forest fire came through. But luckily for us, the prospectors gave them more visibility. They could go look. So they were following the Estella vein further to the west, which is a feeder system for these kind of deposits, SEDEX deposits. And they came over the ridge and went over the gabbro, and they looked down below them, and they could see this rock pile. What's that doing there? So they climbed down. It was an old adit. All right. So someone had blasted a hole into the mountain and had pulled rock out, and it was in this pile outside the adit. And they found massive sulfide like this. It was mostly iron sulfide, pyrrhotite pyrite, but at the Sullivan you get iron sulfide cores. But it had lead and a little bit of copper in it too, and cobalt. So, and silver, of course. So they found that there. And then they kept mapping or prospecting further south along that horizon. And at the other end of that big mag anomaly you're talking about, they found what is alteration like you see around the Sullivan, this cauticule alteration, and rocks that are chemically active. Why is that important? Because these mineralizing systems love chemically active rocks because they'll go in and deposit and replace the carbonate in those rocks with massive sulfides.
And these are bedded mudstones at the southern end?
Yeah, bedded mudstones, a thick unit, like 100 meters thick.
So what's sort of peripheral to a SEDEX deposit normally?
Exactly. And we know that it's the potential's there because those muds are usually nothing in them, but these had anomalous zinc, lead, barium, and manganese, which is the chemical signature for muds around a venting massive SEDEX type deposit. So the mag anomaly, they prospected through there, it's mainly covered in overburden. Now, although it's been burnt off, you're just covered with talus material and you can't find anything. So it's a third target. So we have a cluster of 3 targets, all potentially large enough to host a Sullivan. And so we think the Estella is our best chance at hitting the source of the boulders since they're right there. From that, we just move to the next and the next.
So this Grundy Creek target has no soil geochem on
No.
it. Is it worth bothering to do it, or does it make sense to just drill some scout holes if surplus money ended up available?
Good question. It might be worth doing some soils through there, but at the end of the day, we're just collecting talus material, which could be rock from anywhere up the mountain, and so it doesn't really give us a lot of confidence. Let's say we don't get a soil anomaly. It doesn't mean we don't have a deposit. It's just buried.
Mhm.
So it's kind of, it'd be nice to have at least a couple of holes across that test the stratigraphy.
Now, the market's probably going to be wait and see on Sullivan 2 discovery until you tell us that. And if I heard you correctly earlier, we might find out in maybe a Q4 of this year what you did or did not find there.
Right.
But another project has started to gain attention, and this is I think it's the Zinger project. This is on the western side of the Rocky Mountain Trench, where you have a whole cluster of projects. And there you have the old GAR target, and you're holding one of the rocks from it in your hand.
Yes.
And the work you've done within these, it's been sort of like pecking away, looking for kind of high-grade sources for all the placer gold that spilled into this. But now you're telling us a completely different story. Fill me in on this.
So our plan going into the Sullivan Mining District was to consolidate the ground to find another Sullivan mine, but also gold mines, because you have 65 kilometers of gold in the creeks. I don't know anywhere in the world that you can go and have that much placer gold in the creeks and not have gold deposits. Doesn't mean that they're going to be there, but has anyone really looked at them? You remember, before the Sullivan was discovered, this was a placer gold mining area. That's what the gold rush was for in the 1864. So we went in when all the people left back in 2001 when Teck Cominco closed the Sullivan down, and other people had gone. We started consolidating land. The more land and properties we consolidated, the more data we had, because it's a historical mining camp, right? The more data we compiled, the more it started identifying these other gold targets, as well as base metal, like the Sullivan. So this rock is a granite to granodiorite. Doesn't mean a lot to people, but it has little veins, sheeted veins. You can see them here. And it runs 1.36 grams per ton gold. If I was walking over this rock, I would walk past it and never even think. I would just go, it's a granite, who cares? The prospectors, though, with their ability to bang every rock they can, started seeing visible gold. So what's an analog to this? Fort Knox in Alaska. You know, it's the same kind of reduced intrusion related gold system. Snowline's Valley deposit, right, in the Yukon. We're right along the Rocky Mountain Trench Fault. You go north, all the way to the Yukon, it is the Tintina Fault, they call it up there. So you've got the same structural environment, and we've got this big intrusion with sheeted veins and gold, just like you see, and all the characteristics the same as these reduced intrusion related gold systems. It's never been drilled. Never been drilled. That's something that we're talking and thinking about.
So any idea what the age of the intrusions, such as what are hosts that represent the GAR target, is?
Excellent question. It's the same age as Fort Knox and Snowline's Valley, Cretaceous.
Okay.
Mid-Cretaceous, same age, same kind of hornfelsing and scarring around it. And you need to be in the tops of these intrusions, and we believe we are. It's evident by the mapping that we're right at the top. We're in the carapace, they call it, of the intrusion. And because there are other spots up further north where we've got the big body, that have little intrusions, then you're getting anomalous gold, bismuth, molybdenum in soils that were done by a previous owner that we got the property from.
I see a certain irony there because when you were decided to revisit Dewdney Trail, you're actually looking for these younger intrusion-related systems to see if you could have some sort of gold copper system there. And now you're back to where you had started and saying, oh, this was here all the time.
It was on there all the time. But you got to remember too, $5,000 gold is a big difference to $1,200 gold for these types of systems, right? And we've got one, and we have orogenic style gold. We have possible IOCG kind of environment. We have SETX copper. These are all targets we've been accumulating. We're just accumulators. We find a Sullivan on the Dewdney Trail property that's just out of this world. You know, the Sullivan produced 297 million ounces of gold, or sorry, silver. I think it was 8 million tons of lead and almost the same of zinc. And then it had all these other elements, cadmium, indium, cobalt, even some gold. But the samples we've got have more gold than the Sullivan does.
But the market only values you on the basis of your flagship project, which is right now one that still is lacking a discovery, but has potential for a major discovery.
Yeah.
Have you put any thought into possibly splitting this company up into conceptually distinct units?
Good question. So our plan from the beginning was to go in and consolidate the camp to do a thorough geological potential assessment, right? So we've done that. We've identified over 20 targets. We have 100% of the mineral rights. We have identified, well, this type of deposit and this type of deposit, and now we're going to drill more on this one. Once we have a discovery, we're going to keep drilling in that.
Yeah.
Focus on that, build it, just like they did at Voisey's Bay, right? They found the ovoid, then they found the East Deeps. That sent them through the roof. We do the same. We might have 3 different deposits on the Dewdney Trail. We drill that, keep drilling it. At some point, it's going to be too big for us. We're a little company. We spin that into a new company. Shareholders have both, and we sell it off. It's pretty well that simple. And then we go to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. So buying in PJX is like you're going to a mining camp or district like the Sullivan, and you've got, let's say, 10 companies. Which one do you invest in? Well, we've consolidated the whole camp, and we have all the targets. Invest in us. It's just that one, and then the next one, and the next one.
Well, I hope this is the year that you pull that discovery hole that puts your stock through S-curve roof type of thing, brings back all the excitement of discovery plays. I've been talking with John Keating at the Metals Investor Forum in Toronto.
Thank you, John.